Let's Talk About. My name is Sedinam Togo Lamadeku. Let's Talk About is a midweek talk show produced by the Trinity United Church Legon. On Let's Talk About, we discuss real social issues that bother the everyday Christian. You're welcome to this week's edition. Today we are discussing dealing with stress. And joining me today are Dr. Levina Jima on my extreme left. You're welcome, Doctor.
Thank you.
And then we have Dr. Adobia Brown. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And we also have Raymond Chumesi Owari. Dr. Brown and Dr. Jima are psychiatrists, and Raymond is a mathematician. Today we hope that we have an insightful discussion. Before we begin, we would like to remind our viewers to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trinity United Church Legon. Click on the bell icon so that you can receive notifications when we are live. We'd also like to remind you to follow us on Facebook, Trinity United Church Legon. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll start straight into the discussion. And before we start with the questions, at some point in time, we've all felt stressed, I believe. And there are so many things we may have categorized as stress, maybe some extreme tiredness or exhaustion, whatsoever it is. We would like the discussion to be as interactive as possible. So you're reminded to leave your comments on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. You're also reminded to send your questions, suggestions, or whatever you may have to our WhatsApp number 0501 579 996. 0501 579 996. Please stay till the end. Okay, we'll start off with Dr. Jima.
Right.
Now you're a psychiatrist.
Yes.
Right. Most times there's this confusion. So what's the difference? A psychologist and a psychiatrist. What do these two people do?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I am a psychiatrist. Psychiatrists are predominantly medical doctors who have gone through a medical training as general doctors and have gone for further training in mental health. So, you are a doctor first and then you've gone for further training to specialize in mental health. And because of that training, in Ghana, you are also allowed to prescribe medication for mental health conditions. When you come to psychologists, they are also mental health practitioners. However, they do more of talk therapy. So they would rather talk to you to help you address your mental health condition rather than adding medication. In Ghana, they are not allowed to prescribe medication, but in some jurisdictions, if the law allows, they may be allowed to write some medication. So the psychologist uses a different mode of treatment, and psychiatrists use more of the medical module. But we all work together as mental health practitioners. The practice of psychology complements that of psychiatry and vice versa.
Okay, thank you for the clearing up, actually. Thank you. Dr. Adobia, what would you say stress is?
Okay, stress. So stress has been described as the epidemic of the 21st century. And usually we say, or the definition of stress is the psychological, physical and emotional response that a person has when the demand placed on them is more than their ability to cope or to adjust to. So what that means is that stress is different for different people. So I might find something stressful because I adjudge that thing to be more than I can cope. But he might not find it stressful at all. You might not find it stressful. So in a nutshell, that is stress.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Jima, what happens to your body when you're stressed? Or at what point can you say that, okay, I'm stressed?
Okay. So stress affects every part of our body, from your head to your toe. So health is a continuum. Physical, they all come together. So when you are stressed, in your mind, there's like a threat, and your body will react. So you see a threat, and then your body will decide, should I fight or I should run away for safety? When that happens, there are some chemicals released into your body to help you in the role of safety to either fight or to flee or run away. It's because at that point in time, your life needs to be preserved, and it shouldn't happen every day. So for a short period, that helps you. Imagine you're writing an exam. You need clarity of mind to focus, be able to answer the questions within the specified time. And so every attention is going to your brain, and you can remember a lot of things. When you are done, you ask yourself, oh, so I did this because you thought that you have exerted yourself. Same if you are going for a sprint. But it is for a period, and then everything should drop down and your body acts normally. So when this happens for a long time, it doesn't help the body, it hurts the body. And so you may not be able to think well, you may become easily irritable or angry or snap at people. You may become confused at some point, and sometimes when that happens, you may be withdrawn, or sometimes people may shun your company if they realize that you are not friendly enough. It affects your heart, because continuous stress can give you a heart attack, or is a risk factor for heart disease. It affects your gut, or your abdominal system, your gastrointestinal system, digestive system. So for some people who have chronic stress, they can have ulcers, or what we call stress ulcers, or gastritis. So they may have tummy ache, particularly when they eat. For some people, they even go ahead to bleed because of the irritation that happens in their tummy.
Okay.
It can affect your skin. For some people, they may lose hair when they are continuously stressed. And sometimes they may even have some rashes, allergic reactions, or some rashes that when they are stressed may become more, or even show up only when they are stressed. It affects sometimes even your reproductive system. So if a woman is stressed for a long time, they may not be able to conceive, and they may not really be fulfilled as women, because it might affect your menses, and that will also in turn affect your fertility. So in a nutshell, stress affects every aspect of our body, be it physical, be it psychological, be it emotional.
Okay. For the purposes of clarity, Raymond is here as someone who went through a stressful time studying. So he'll be sharing some of his personal experiences with us. That's why he's quiet for the moment. Dr. Brown, would you like to add anything?
Yes. Not really. I think he has said everything. But, so two main hormones are responsible for the stress. As she said, your life is in danger. You need to get to safety. So usually what happens is that adrenaline is released. What does adrenaline do? It increases your heart rate, because you need to be pumping blood at a faster rate to the body, to your muscles, for you to be able to run away to safety. But when the stress is such that, for instance, the stress of work, where are you running away to? You're not running away anywhere. But your body interprets it as danger that you must be saved from. So your heart is beating, pumping blood to your muscles. Your muscles are tensed up, ready to run, but you're not running away anywhere. So then you get the headaches, the body aches, and things like that. Cortisol depresses immunity. And so that is the reason why people, if you are stressed, you are susceptible to a lot of infections. Today it is a cold, the next day it is that. And even in my practice, I remember as a medical student, when I started my clinicals, a young 30-something-year-old man came on admission with severe malaria. One, this person has lived all his life in Ghana. So really, malaria shouldn't get... We see severe malaria in children and the elderly, so extremes of life. Like he was 30-something, and he was on admission because of severe malaria. Not only that, but whilst on admission, he needed dialysis because his kidneys shut down. So acute renal failure. And why? Because he lived such a stressful life. He was surviving on maybe 4 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period, working. So that's the stress is what led to decreased immunity, such that malaria could land him on admission at Kolebu, not some polyclinic, Kolebu, and needed dialysis. So yes, it's a serious thing, and we need to look at it.
Okay, so would you give us some causes? What are some of the things that cause stress?
Okay, so broadly, we say that stress can be external or internal.
Okay.
So the external causes of stress, environment. So environment, your environment. So for instance, you live in a very noisy environment or a very polluted environment. That can be stressful, okay? Things like your work, organizational culture, all these things are things that are outside of you. Major life changes. And the major life changes can be both positive and negative. So for instance, somebody got married and immediately after marriage is stressed. Why? Because they find that maybe the role as a spouse is something they are not prepared for, something they can't cope. You get a promotion at work. It's something that is good. But when you feel that you can't cope or you're not well prepared for that particular role, it can serve as a source of stress for you. Okay, so those are some of the external causes of stress. And then we have the internal causes. The internal causes there, it tends to be, so your personal expectations. For instance, we hear people today, I should be a millionaire by age 25. Okay, so that's a stress, you see. So your personal expectations. Or maybe you have a beer budget, but you have champagne taste. Okay. It's stressful, you know. So those are some of the things. And then also sometimes past experiences. For instance, maybe even when you were in Sunday school, age 8 or something, you were called upon to perform in church. You forgot your lines and you felt you were booed off or nobody clapped for you, you were ashamed. So following that, every time you have to speak in public, it's a source of stress for you. You can't sleep, you can't eat, you just can't relax until that period is over. And I've met somebody, she was a journalist, and yet she had that, and it was because of something that happened before her teens, you know. So every time she needed to go on, it was something. And then sometimes to our nature. So you are a perfectionist in an imperfect world. You don't understand why can't everybody be on time? So those are some of the internal causes of stress. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Raymond, what are some of the things that made you stress?
Okay, so for me, when I was in school, that's Legon, what made me stress was the fact that I decided to become an excellent student. So my goal was to get a first class, nothing but a first class. When I made up my mind to do that, my stress started. I had to sleep for 4 hours a day and study at least 6 hours every day, which placed a lot of pressure on myself. When I went on to do my master's, it became worse. Because with that, I had to be studying all the time, and I was sleeping barely 3 hours a day. Yeah. Okay,
so did you get a first class? No, don't tell us. So I want to ask Dr. Jima, picking off from where Raymond has ended and from his personal experience, is stress always bad?
So stress is not always bad.
Okay.
Stress can be good. In a time of, let's say, writing an exam or taking a race, it's for your body to be prepared for that targeted event. And so sometimes it may make you outdo yourself, which is good. In the case of Raymond, having an ambition of a first class is not bad. It will motivate him to do well. However, sometimes we need to be realistic that it may not always work out the way we plan. But if that happens, it's okay. We need to sit back and see how can I work it out such that whatever I get, I know that I have done my very best and I'm content with it. And so life goes on so that you don't really harm yourself in that endeavor.
Okay. Dr. Debbie, I want to add.
So just to add, as she said, without stress, life will be very boring. Stress has been described by some as the spice of life. In the right proportion, it enhances life, it enhances experiences. But when it is too much, just like spice, too much of it will choke you. Yes. Okay. So it's a normal the normal bell curve, where here is too little stress, productivity is so low, you are not motivated, you are just there. But in the right amount, in the middle, you see that productivity goes up, you enjoy life, you are on top of things. However, too much of it, productivity declines, your health, everything. Yes, so yes, there's something called good stress.
Okay, so today for the first time, I'm learning that we have good stress and bad stress. As are people more prone to being stressed than others? Dr. Adobe, I'll take that, then Dr. Jima will add on to it.
Yes, some people are more prone. Okay, so research says that genetic, everything genetic. So some people are genetically predisposed to stress or being more stressed. And I'm sure we have people around us. Look, my brother, he comes after me. Nothing stresses him in this life. Like, I haven't met a person like him. He drives from Agbogba to Accra Central every day. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't shout at mates. He doesn't use his horn. He's laid back like that. He'll tell you even at work, when something is stressful, all he has to do, he just needs to take 3 steps away, and I'm fine. You see, so yeah, some people genetically predisposed to being more stressed than others. And I'm sure we also have others around us who are everything, they are going off. They, every little thing, they are overreacting. In fact, today I was telling my son that they won't meet me when they come back from school. And he asked why. And I said, I'm going to church. And he goes like, oh, the stress thing. And I'm like, yes, the stress thing. Then he goes like, but you're always so stressed. You are going to talk about stress. 11 years. So I'm like, what do you mean by I'm always so stressed? You're always stressed. No, that's just that you're always you stress yourself. And you're going to talk about stress. And I'm like, I stress myself. And what do I do? Oh, you stress yourself. And you talk too much. Yes. And you talk too much. So, he's 11. Maybe he's seen that his mom is always so stressed. Yes. Another thing too is past experience. Usually, things that happen in childhood, emotional abuse, physical abuse, unmet expectations in your childhood, hurts that you have not healed from. All these things can predispose you to being more prone to stress than the other person. Yeah. Who has not experienced that really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So adding on, I've met young people who have sometimes unrealistic expectations. You start work, you think you should have a car, you should have a house, you should be everything on top of the world. But the life is not always like that. It's not a straightforward road. And so we outrun ourselves, outdo ourselves, and then eventually we fall back. So sometimes it is our own doing by having such unrealistic expectations of life and not having room to absorb challenges that may come in. And sometimes too, one thing I see is sometimes we feel very entitled. We think that, yes, it is due us and we must have it regardless. And that may also put a lot of stress on you. Thinking that, oh, social media, people are taking pictures of this or that or that. People, maybe it's just a scene that's being created. Yet we see it and we think we should meet up with them. And then you go all sorts of ways to meet other people's expectations of you. And that puts a lot of stress on us as young people based on what is happening around us, social media, etc., etc.
Okay, thank you. Raymond, would you say that, okay, were your colleagues as stressed as you were they also surviving on 4 hours of sleep and all of that? Or you set your bar too high?
Well, I had friends, and my friends were always as stressed as I was. So, when I was in school, I had roommates who were doing the same courses that I was also doing. So with that, you can't be in the room and decide to sleep. It doesn't work. Everyone is studying, so you also have to study. So I had people who were also working that, going far like the way I was doing, which was also an encouragement to me to also do that.
I was going to ask how he was measuring to be sure that they had the same stress levels. But it's okay. At a point, Dr. Jima mentioned that stress can affect a woman's productivity. Can it affect the man's too? So reproductive health in general?
Yes, reproductive health in general. Because again, the second hormone I mentioned, cortisol.
Okay.
It's okay. So in a flight or fight or a fight or flight situation, the main focus of your body, of nature, is to preserve your life. So everything that is deemed non-necessary is shut down. Okay, so blood is shunted even from your gut to the muscles, and that's how the issues with the gut comes in. Okay, because it's not deemed, you don't need, at that time you are not focused on food, so it's not the time that you are going to pump blood to your gut to do what. Okay, again, your life is in danger. That is not the time that you are going to reproduce. Okay, so productive health is also put on hold, sort of, And it's nature's way of preserving life. After we have preserved your life, then we can go on and do have babies and eat.
all of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Just that. So when it continues, then it delays things. And I'm sure we've heard that somebody was trying to get pregnant for 6 years, and as soon as they decided that, oh, fine, if God won't give me children, I'm okay, I'm content, or they even start the process of adoption, or they adopt, then immediately they get pregnant. Or they say, okay, if pregnancy won't come, I might as well do something else. So they sign up for maybe a master's program, a PhD, and then they get pregnant. Why? Because you're no longer stressing yourself. So, yes, your body now knows that it's safe to bring another life into the world.
Okay. Still talking about the causes and repercussions or implications. Can stress kill you? How bad can it get? Dr. Jima will take that.
So yes, stress can kill you. All the things we've talked about, a heart attack can kill you. A stress ulcer can kill you. And you see, these days we have lots and lots of cancers here and there. It can kill you. The more stressed you are, the more the chance that you can develop one cancer after another, or one cancer or another. And when you are stressed beyond a certain point, you might have, you can go into depression, and then later you may have suicidal ideation and may push you even to suicide. There are instances where people are pushed in the workplace to the point that they wish that they would not wake up the next morning, and so that will push them to. So stress indeed can kill you.
Okay. Are there any personal experiences you'd like to share with us concerning, stress getting so bad, where people begin to have suicidal thoughts and all of that? Is there any?
Okay.
I'll give you some time to think of.
So
one.
this is quite recent. So
Okay.
I met a young lady, mid to late 30s, had been with one of the top banks in Ghana for over 10 years, had risen through the ranks, and was at a point where she had been made a manager of a branch. And she'll tell you that her whole life, since her infancy and all, she's always been top, excellent student. And then when she went to the bank, always exceeding her targets, meeting her targets. So that is the reason why they made her branch manager, because they thought she could do it. Then her first year as branch manager, or say even first quarter, she didn't meet her targets. Because according to her, she didn't have a deputy, it was a new branch, she didn't have team leaders, But when she didn't meet her targets, her boss came down on her. She said that day she had a panic attack. She didn't even know she was getting a panic attack. And then every time she had to have a meeting with her boss, she needed to sack herself. It got to a point that, in fact, the reason why she came to see me was because she had been away from work for close to a year with excuse duty, with one medical condition after the other. So eventually somebody referred to see the psychiatrist. We diagnosed her as having severe depression. And the whole time I was with her, about 2 hours, she cried throughout. She had gotten to a point such that when she wakes up in the morning and she knows she has to go to work, she gets diarrhea. She will run, such that she has to call out. Okay, diarrhea can kill you. If you're not replacing the fluids,
6 hours.
Yes, it can kill you, So that when her phone rings and it's from the office, her heart starts beating. She gets this choking sensation. She's just unable to cope. She said she can be fine, weekends especially. She's driving around town with her children. She sees her bank signboard. Then her body goes into, it was that bad. So yes, and it was all because of work stress. She had a very supportive husband. Her mom was there. In fact, her mom was sending her to prayer camps because they thought that somebody was doing her daughter. Her daughter has come into her season of greatness, and somebody was doing her. So it was just work. That for the first time, as Dr. Jima said, unrealistic expectations. She had never had a personal or academic or even job setback. So for the first time,
she was
experiencing that, and she just couldn't cope.
Okay.
She's doing better now. Yes. Together with her work, we came up with some workable solutions. That was workable for the bank. The bank could accept that, and she could also accept that. And she's doing better now.
I'm so happy she's fine. Now we'll look at some ways or effective ways of dealing with stress. I'll start with Dr. Jima.
Okay.
I know there are countless, options.
Yes.
So.
Okay. So effective ways of dealing with stress. It depends on you, the individual. It's not a one thing fits everybody. You need to know yourself and identify that these things will stress me. How do I manage it? If it's something that I cannot handle it. So you need to look at yourself. But we can talk about common things that are done by other people. So one, you need to have realistic expectations. As a young person, as an old person, what are your goals in life? How feasible are they being achieved within a certain period of time? Should it not happen, how prepared are you to sit back and wait and rethink and see how best to go around it? So that's one. In the work environment, sometimes we are forced to accept every work that comes to our table because we think we need to achieve, or, it will put you in the good books of your boss. But sometimes you need to ask, so this work I've taken, what will it add to me? Is it essential? Can someone else do it? So that if someone else can do it, you reassign so that you can free yourself. Another instance is when you assign other people, you give them the opportunity to also learn and better their skill, such that they'll become an asset tomorrow. And then you can permanently maybe delegate such duties to them, and then you can free yourself. In relationships, we need to learn to communicate, know the other person, and then also accept that we all are not perfect. So when there's a shortfall in your partner or in a colleague, you need to accept and then see workable solutions such that you are not stressed and they are not stressed, so that you have always conflicts amongst you, because that's what make everybody wear out, and then you have a toxic environment and nobody thrives in a toxic environment.
That's okay. Thank you. I let Dr. Brown take it from there.
Okay, so just to continue from where she left off, but even before that, so I think that, so number one, we already said that stress is different for different people. And unfortunately or fortunately, signs and symptoms of stress, what we talked about, the headache, the irritability and all that, they are also common in other situations. So for every person, you need to evaluate yourself and answer the question, am I stressed? Am I? Am I stressed? If the answer is yes, then you go to step two. Step two is, what is stressing me? Of all the things I have to do, which one of them is stressing me? Is the stress coming from my work? Is the stress coming from my marriage? Is the stress coming from... Yes, so you need to do that. And then the next thing is, why is that thing stressing me?
Okay.
Of course, it's for some people, maybe you say my whole work is stressing me, or maybe because I have long work hours, or maybe because I'm in a role that I don't feel prepared for. You need to identify what about the stressor is stressing you. The stressor is something that causes stress. Okay. You need to identify what about it is stressing you. That is when then you can start managing it. Okay. Okay. So some of the ways, for some of us, we need to talk to ourselves. As she said, unrealistic expectations. You need to be able to tell yourself that my little brother, she'll kill me. He used to say that he'll be married by age 24. Of course, he didn't get married by age 24.
The one who doesn't like stress?
No, one? Not that one, okay, the other one. Okay. He knows himself. Okay. Oh, we were kids in if I'm 24, I should be married. And it was so funny because he has two big sisters. And they didn't think that they'd be ready for marriage at 24. So when you're approaching 24 and you're not married, does that mean you're a failure? That exactly. You see, so you need to be able to talk to yourself and encourage yourself. There are some people who say that they, as I said, some of the internal stresses, expectations. I want to go to Dubai. I want to go to US. One of my friends, I remember her when we were in school, she said that, I want to wear designer, but I don't have money for designer now. But I know I've got money for designer in future. You see, so some of these things you need to talk to yourself. And then sometimes especially when it comes to based on past experiences, you need to be able to stop the thoughts. So for instance, in the past, as a child, you were asked to read the Bible in church and you fumbled. And because of that, you never want to read the Bible again. Or whenever they approach you that you should read the Bible, hey, just the fact that they have asked you to come and read the Bible is stress, okay? Because you think it would happen again. Or the thoughts that, so you need to talk positive to yourself and you need to even stop the negative thoughts. So these are some of the ways that if you come and see us, would help you. Okay. Then I've found that for people, we are people of faith. For people of faith, in fact, when it comes to mental health, religion is a double-edged sword. It can be very good and it can be very detrimental. But research shows over and over again that for people of faith, for people who believe in something, a higher power, they do better. So even when they do better. They survive catastrophes. When they fall sick, they recover faster. From cancer, the chance of survival, is high. So for us, people of faith, I think that we should derive comfort from the scriptures. One of the things that for me helps me a lot is Thanksgiving. So no matter how stressful an event is, when I start thanking God, usually it might not change, but I feel better. Do you understand? So for instance, work, I'm under pressure. I thank God. I start thanking God that when I have a job and that the job is stressing me. I'm not saying take away the stress. I just start thanking God. And it helps me. But if you read the Bible too, it tell you that Thanksgiving, it said in Psalm 50, it said, offer me the sacrifice of thanks and call on me in the days of trouble. Okay. So we know it, that there are a lot of, so let's take comfort in the Bible. Okay. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens. Those things are comforting. Those are some of the things that can help you. And I'd like to add that in this fast-paced world, sometimes, as one of my dear departed lecturers used to say, we should not succumb to the tyranny of the agent. So there's a quadrant of needs that one U.S. President Eisenhower developed. And it's like a quadrant, so 4 squares. The first square are things that are urgent and important. So quadrant 1, urgent and important. You can use that to plan your life. So whatever you have to, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, this task, my to-do list, which one of them are urgent and important? And Eisenhower says, or the quadrant, says, do that. So first quadrant is urgent, is important. Do it immediately. So you have job deadlines, you have bills to pay, you have mortgage. If you don't, do it. Okay. The second quadrant down is important, but not urgent. So important but not urgent. What are some of those things that are important and not urgent? You need to, for instance, book a flight. Must you do it yourself? So so you can use that, and then for the not important, not urgent thing, you can just get rid of them. And then important but not urgent, delegate. So when every day you wake up, your to-do list, or weekly, you can just do that. Put things in perspective. What does that? Is that you plan. It makes you manage. You are not always hurried or stressed. Because you know what is what. Exactly.
We'll come back and I'll have Raymond tell me how he dealt with stress, of course. And we've been Googling ways to deal with stress. So I'll ask some questions, but we'll take an announcement. Are you falling or standing in your relationship? How do you get out of a toxic relationship? How do you save and spice up your relationship? What does a healthy relationship look like? To find answers to these and more on Relationship 360, you are invited to the Young Adults Fellowship Relationship Talk with PG Sebastian, a professional relationship coach, scheduled as follows. Date, Saturday, November the 12th, 2022, time 5:30 p.m. And the venue, the Youth Development Center at Trinity United Church. The Matured Adult Fellowship of the Trinity United Church, Legon, is organizing a mentorship symposium with Reverend and Mrs. Anthony Ani. Time is 5:30 p.m., date 12 November 2022. The venue is the Trinity United Church, Legon, inside the Trinity Theological Seminary at the conference room upstairs. Those are our announcements. We'll be going on a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with the discussion. Please stay with us.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Please do not forget to send in your comments and questions on both our Facebook and YouTube pages, Trinity United Church Legon. You can also send them to our WhatsApp number 0501 579 996, 0501 579 996. We would love to hear from you. So we'll pick it up from where Dr. Brown was talking about the quadrants. We are very much interested. Over to you, Dr. Brown.
Okay, so as I was saying, so is the Eisenhower, yes, so that is the quadrant.
Okay.
So we have the important and urgent ones. We say the important and urgent ones, don't do them immediately. So you should know, you have a deadline, you have school deadline, or those are important things that you can't afford not to do, okay? Then the second quadrant is the urgent. Those are things that are urgent but not important tasks. So you are traveling, you need somebody, you need to schedule a flight and hotel reservations, but you can delegate that. Somebody can do it for you. It's important, it's really important that you feed your family, but you can delegate the cooking. You don't need to do it yourself. It's important that your children are in clean clothes and everything, but you don't need to do it yourself. Okay, so those are urgent, what do you call it? Urgent but not important. Okay, so you delegate those. And then we have the not urgent but important. So a deadline. I have one like that, which is up next year, is a March. Yes, I have one like that.
Okay.
So you must, those are tasks that you schedule. You schedule them, or you decide when you do them.
Okay.
Okay. And then we have those that they are neither important or urgent. Okay. So social media.
Okay.
You can get rid of that.
Okay.
What other things? You need to, if you're watching a movie, Netflix and chill or whatever, they are not important. Those are some of the things that you can lose. Okay. So if everything you have to do, you need to decide, where does it belong in the quadrant? This is something I need to do myself. Do it. But the other thing too is that they're not urgent and what do we call it?
Urgent.
They're not urgent, but important ones. What we don't do they move to quadrant 1. I said schedule a time to do it, but you don't do it.
Okay.
Then so eventually it will move from the third quadrant into the first quadrant, where it becomes urgent and important.
Okay.
So we need to do that, and then life will become a bit more manageable. If we do this, you'll see that we don't have to attend all the funerals. We don't need to attend all the naming ceremonies. We don't need to attend
the weddings.
Exactly all the weddings, and that will free up some time for us to do things that will distress us.
Okay, thank you. So much insight and education. Raymond, you are not a doctor, but how were you dealing with your stress levels in school? Now you at several points you realized that you were so stressed. Your course was stressing you out. What are you doing?
Okay, before I answer your question, I would want to give a personal experience that I went through.
Go ahead, please.
So, when I was in level 400 first semester, I took one course, and the lecturer kind of shamed me in class. I wasn't able to answer a particular question, or it wasn't incorrect. It was correct, but I didn't answer it well.
Properly.
Then he called one student to come and answer it, and he made things worse. And the lecturer just got angry and decided that he was going to fail us in the course. And just then, I broke down. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to cry in the class, but
You should have.
I can't cry. I just couldn't do that. So what I did was that I encouraged myself. After the class, I went to see the lecturer and I spoke to him that, oh, say, please, this and this and this was that what happened. So it's not like I didn't know. I knew what I was doing, but I was just confused. Then he understood. Then he became my friend. Though the course was tough, I believe that if I didn't approach him to talk to him, I would have failed the course. Because that course gave me the least grade I ever got in the university. But I was proud of myself because I was able to fight it, to forgive myself and approach the lecturer and avoid unnecessary stress. So what I used to do was that I used to sleep when I'm stressed, and then what I also do is that I motivate myself. So I have sticky notes, I write positive words of encouragement. I'm blessed, I am going to get 6 A's, I'm going to get a first class every day. So anytime I wake up, that's the first thing I see, and I encourage myself. Yeah. So that's what I was doing.
Okay, so I'm taking something from Raymond's submission. Communication is important in managing stress. Communication is extremely important.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So, okay. We'll leave it at
So
that.
just to add to Raymond's experience,
okay.
sometimes you have people, when they are stressed, may use what we say maladaptive ways of managing their stress. He used a good one, a positive one. Talk to himself, talk to the entity that was stressing him out, and then engaged. Some people may go on to drink, engage in risky behaviors as a way of coping. Yes, and that may also land them into more trouble. Okay, but he used, yes. And one thing he said that's very important is that even though he didn't get a good grade, he was content with what he had because he knew that he had done his best. I've had young people, go to school, either SHS, university, and as Dr. Brown said, never failed an exam. And then when they meet competition, you have everybody coming. Obia the level up. And so you realize that you are not invincible, and you get a grade that you have never expected. I've seen a lot of young people crash, some even to the point of wanting to die and even attempting because they can't take it. They have no shock absorbers for failure. But we are human beings. Things may change. And so I'm happy he mentioned that he was content regardless of the grade he had. He was happy with his own efforts because he knew he had done his best.
Okay. So I have a personal question. Does crying help you distress? Because it helps me.
It's an emotional release, yes.
Okay, so it does.
It does.
It helps me a lot.
It's an emotional release. Yes.
So somebody will also laugh.
Yes.
Laughter works, humor works for some people.
Okay, so it's what works for you.
Yes.
Okay, we have a comment from Reverend Dr. Martin Obing. He says, what shall it profit a person to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Thank you, panelists and hosts. Okay, another question by Benjamin Owusu Harrison. He says, how can we manage risk? The risk.
What
Maybe
risk?
the risks associated with overly stressed.
Well, haven't we?
Yes, you have. You have touched on
I
it.
think we have. So, yeah,
Can we give him
identify
a-
what is stressing
Right.
you. Identify if you are stressed first, what is stressing you, why is that thing stressing you, and then use any of the coping mechanisms to do it.
Okay.
Usually what I realize is that for some people, when it comes to like work, for instance, maybe it's one of the external things, it's outside of your control. So sometimes talking to yourself might not work. For instance, you are not meeting deadlines, you are not meeting targets, your boss is shouting on you and all that. Talking to yourself might not work. But sometimes you should also ask yourself, why am I not meeting targets? Why am I not meeting deadlines? And if you're able to identify that, does that mean that you need help? Reach out. You see, we live in a world where we think that asking for help is a sign of weakness, but it's not. So talk to people who have been where you have been. I remember as a young resident, then I lived in Pantan, going to Kolebu every day. It was stressful. I had a child. My child had to go to my mother-in-law and all that. One Sunday after church, I just approached Dr. Ifo Abraham, and I was at my, she was such a huge support system for me during that time. We didn't used to talk all the time, but I knew that if I needed her, why? Because she's a doctor, she's a mother, she's been where I have been. There, so just reach out to people who have been where you have been. So it takes a village, and it really does. Sometimes a village from workplace, people who do what you do. You're an engineer, Find an engineer who is ahead of you. Talk to the person. Find out how they coped. Okay, you are whatever. Find somebody. You need friends. Somebody says that your friends, can also be a source of stress. If you are in a place where they're always talking about you, you're always fighting, you're always having to explain, it's not worth it. You need to find new sets of friends. But you need friends who will encourage you, who would support you, and yes, that would help. Okay.
So from your submission, you take yourself away from situations that will stress you.
Exactly. Avoid it.
Yes, that will take us to our next comment. But Kwapoi Kufu says, one technique I used to overcome a particular thing that was causing me a lot of stress, which I couldn't get away from, was to deliberately mentally deprioritize it. So much English. Once I didn't consider it as that important, I managed to significantly reduce the stress it caused me.
Yes, so it's all up. Okay, and sometimes too, instead of seeing this thing as this is stressful, I can't, tell yourself it's a challenge I like to overcome. So it's how we talk to us. One thing, I'm a very my chances I stress myself, maybe.
Okay.
But I'm also one person who likes things pepe.
Okay.
Like my children have a bedtime. When the time is passed by even 5-10 minutes, you see me, I'll start going off, My daughter, very strong-willed, but likes to touch it. I'm not a very touchy person. So, but I realized that I need to. So she comes to me for comfort. That's it's a good thing. That no matter what, even if she's doing something, I keep telling her, stop. If she doesn't stop and she falls down and hurts herself, I'm the first person she'll come to. And it encourages me that even when she's done the wrong thing, she would come back to me. And when I started thinking about it that way, when she wakes me up in the middle of the night because she bumped her head, I'm happy. I'm just happy that she came to me. And I just had to change my mindset. Like seeing it as something bad or I'm not seeing it as something that I want to cultivate, so that even when she gets to her teenage years, I'll still be the first person she comes to when she's hurt, even from her own doing or not from her own doing. So sometimes it's just, as she said, just is changing the way you think about the thing, the way you view the situation. That is all sometimes you need to do.
That's a good thing. We have an interesting question from Daniel Kuchwachi. He says, the works, the betrayal, the crucifixion and death of Jesus, wasn't that stress that he went through? What are some of the positives of Jesus' stressful life to Christians? He came to save our souls.
Yes.
So if I could... Okay, please tell us.
So we were doing a devotional together recently, and one thing that the devotion talked about was more or less the case of Joseph. It was revealed to him that he was going to be a big person, save his people and all. But he didn't know that in that becoming a great person, he was going to land himself in prison, he was going to be accused, he was going to go through all that. So that's same with Jesus. He knew he would die and resurrect. But the processes, so there's always the middle ground that we may not know. But God assures us that there's an end that is victorious. And as Christians, that should be our comfort. We may not know the in-betweens, but he's there to guide us through. And our end is known and it's victorious.
Okay, amen. Hallelujah, somebody. Can we conclude that Jesus' stress was the good type of stress?
Well, even if it was a bad
to an extent,
the end was good.
In the garden, she said his sweat was like drops of blood. Can you imagine the stress? But it led to humanity's liberation. Okay, so it's at the end of it was a glorious thing.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like today's questions. Someone says, is there any blood test for checking if one is stressed? I want to know too. If you can do a blood test to show that you are stressed or something.
You could measure
there's
their
a test, but it's not blood.
It's not.
What is
urine?
Urine, yes, but also we have a psychological tool that we can administer, and then based on your score, we can tell you whether you are stressed
or not.
Yes.
Okay.
But even before the questions, our engagement with you, telling us your story, your work, your home, and what you are feeling, at least will give us a good indication of whether you are stressed or not.
Okay, so does medication help with stress? Does it help relieve stress? Because I've gone to a pharmacy to buy supplements to relieve my stress before. When I went in there, I told the woman, I'm so stressed, I'm so tired, my eyelids are heavy, you know, my appetite is suppressed, my sleep patterns have changed. And she was like, bye, pro woman. I was like, hey, why pro woman? So I mentioned my age. I was like, I'm just a young girl. Oh. She was like, it will help. I didn't buy it. It didn't sit right with me. So I went back home to try to work on it. It has gotten better. So now that you are here, let me take the chance to ask if medication
Medications
actually
will
helps
help.
to relieve stress.
Okay, so much like physical pain, stress can be a form of an emotional pain. So, for instance, just recently, I was getting constant headaches. I remember one time I picked the kids up from school. I get home, sit in my car, and just cry. My head was hurting and all that. But I knew that the headache is just is a symptom or something that is happening within me. So what I was doing was binging on pain pills.
Okay.
But the pain pill will take away the
Physical.
the pain for a bit. But if you don't deal with what is causing the headache,
It will keep
so for
coming.
instance, if it is malaria, treat the malaria. If it is an infection, treat it. Okay, then, so the headache is just a symptom of what is happening. It's the same way with stress. Stress, whatever you are feeling, and you could get headache, you could get body pains, you could get GI symptoms, you could get
What are GI symptoms?
gastrointestinal,
Oh,
so
okay.
gut.
So your
Okay,
guts.
Okay.
Yes. So you could get all that. But those are just symptoms. You need to deal with the bigger issue
The
of
underlying
what
cause, sort of.
exactly. So that is the main thing. But having said that, we also know that healthy living, so eating well, that's why having time for relaxation, exercising, all those things help you cope better with stress or help you deal with stress. Okay, so in the case of the person recommending the supplement, well, maybe it's because you said your appetite was low and all that. Okay, so she's giving you something. But if you don't deal with what is causing the stress, it might not be as effective as if you do the two. So you're tackling the stress and you're also taking supplements. Or really, if you're eating healthy, you might not even need to have supplements.
Okay, I'll take a comment and then we'll talk about how much exercise helps.
Okay.
So, Vida has another comment. Vida Kwaponkufi, she says, do you think perhaps our upbringing can play a role in our ability to cope with stress? Perhaps those who have had a hard life may cope better. Just wondering. I think we mentioned it as a point.
Yes.
Past trauma
Yes.
and all of that. So, yes.
But I think what she means also is resilience.
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things that I think a lot of young people today don't have
Is resilience.
resilience. But you can't blame them, okay? Me growing up, I've always come to Trinity United Church.
Okay.
My dad, we lived at Presec. I
Okay.
walked to church. My take all. Now we are raising children that, well, the world is a dangerous place. So we are sort of shielding them. My son has never sat in church. When I was his age, I was church queen.
You can fight and get in.
But she's never sat in church. He's driven
to
to school,
fro.
back, you know. So it's all, so we are raising children who are really not resilient.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yes, you know, secondary school cry these days, they are not, I don't know. So yes, it's about resilience. And when we build resilience in the youth, then they'll be better able to cope with the stresses of life.
Raymond, when a question comes on a comment, you can add something. You don't have to be a doctor first. You're too quiet for my life. Okay, so when do you recommend therapy for stress victims?
Or who,
Doctor,
anybody
yes,
who is
yes,
feeling
anybody
stressed.
Who's feeling stressed.
Okay. So usually, your body will tell you in a number of ways, some of which we have mentioned. When you realize that you have tried all you know to do, because generally we have all been stressed before and we've used different mechanisms. Raymond shared his. Some people would go swimming, some people would go dancing, others would talk to friends, maybe take time out to the beach, nature. But when you've tried all that and it's not working, it's important that you talk to a professional. We have to come to a point where we normalize taking care of our mental health. So just like you walk to a clinic and say, I want my blood pressure checked, or I want my sugar level checked, or I've come just to see how well I am. it's also important that we also do that for our mental health. So it should not be out of place to walk to a facility. I want to see a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a mental health professional, just to be sure that I'm okay. Once we do that, it shouldn't be a problem walking to Pantan, walking to Accra Psychiatric Hospital, walking to the psychiatric department of a polyclinic or another place just to seek help. Because we have a lot of people who are currently suffering in silence because they don't want to be seen anywhere near Accra Psychiatric Hospital Pantan. But there's help out there for us. And we need to accept that when we are not able to cope, it's important that we get the needed help.
Before today, I didn't see myself transporting myself to Pantan to talk to a professional. But now I know the difference between who a psychologist and a psychiatrist is. I think we'll normalize seeking help as and when we need it. Okay. Joseph Jeffy has a comment. He says, I have a little contribution to add to what our able guests have said about how to avoid stress. We, the students, should desist from piling our assignments to deadlines.
Exactly.
The deadlines
Yes, that's very important. So use a quadrant. So an assignment is due in a week's time. Of course, it doesn't mean that today when you get home at 8 p.m.
You have to do
you should
it.
sit down and do it. But you should know that it's not urgent, but it is important. It's not urgent because it's not due tomorrow.
So you make the time.
It's due in a week. So schedule it. I'll carve out some time by Sunday to do it.
A little.
Exactly.
A little.
So you schedule to do it. But then if you don't do it, then before you realize, you have 8 assignments due back to back.
Yeah.
And then, some people don't even look at the question. No.
You're
So
right.
a day before they are supposed to turn it in, then they realize that they need things they don't have.
Then the stress doubles.
Then the stress level. It's like
Okay.
it's my son telling me in the morning that he needs a hot glue gun. You need it for what? For school today. You're not serious.
Okay, Kwame says, what is the relationship between stress and anxiety? And do breathing exercises help with stress and anxiety? Dr. Brown.
Breathing exercises help with anxiety. So stressful situations can give rise to feelings of anxiety. But anxiety is so broad. Anxiety is so broad. So yes, stressful situations can lead to feelings of anxiety. For instance, the example I gave about somebody, so you're afraid to talk in public. We have a fear of speaking in public. That itself is even an anxiety disorder. But for some, so the fact that you are stressed about it, you see that you can't breathe, you can't, your heart is beating fast. So yes, you can take deep breathing exercises or relaxation techniques, whichever one of them that works for you. Talk to yourself. We had a physics teacher who would say that call yourself by the name, your pet name. So if it is whatever, just talk to yourself.
And to help. But Sajima, do you think stress makes you lose interest in things you used to love?
It can. So usually when you are chronically stressed, you may have experiences where activities that otherwise you enjoy doing, you don't anymore. Or even if you did it, that enjoyment is not there. And it would come with other things. And then we would say that you are depressed.
Okay.
So regarding that, I had a personal experience with that. So before I started doing mathematics, I loved to hang out with friends. When I started maths, I stopped that. There was no time for me to go out and go and hang out with friends, go to parties, go to the beach. I had to stop all that just to manage my time and be more effective.
So, do you think all the stress was worth it?
It was worth it.
Yeah, sure.
I love stress.
Okay, so if someone in your life right now wants to go and do mathematics, will you encourage them to do it? What would be your advice?
My advice
concerning managing their stress levels and all of that?
Okay, first of all, you should have the passion for it, and you should also pray. Prayer works. Like sometimes you can be there and prayer is the only solution out of the situation that you are in. There's a question there that you can spend like almost 2 months just on one question, and it can be hectic. And if you don't have God, and if you're not time conscious, you are not managing your friends, you're not attending lectures, it will be very difficult. And if you don't have passion forget it. It won't work.
So they can go and do math, but not
Oh,
me
they can
though.
do- they
Those
can
who want to do math can do math. Okay, any final comments? I'll start with Dr. Jima. Anything, something small.
Okay. So stress is an everyday thing, and it's with us. We can't take it away from us. We need to, as Dr. Brown said, build resilience. In a community as ours, it's important that we have mentors, people we look up to, who would help us along the way that they have gone, so that we have guidance, and also build a community of support, friends, colleagues, who you can talk to and pray with you, guide you. Even if it's financial, maybe support you, such that we help each other along the way of life.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Raymond, I'll come to you. Don't think you will escape.
I think she said all. As I said, we are people of faith, and even for those who don't believe in anything, they keep churning out research results that show that if you believe in something, but especially for us as Christians, so we can't. Sometimes we think that when nothing else works, then resort to prayer. But it should be prayer first. It should be prayer first. And we should do that, and it would help us. It would help us. We should identify, sometimes it is not when, like the temptation of Jesus by the devil. It is not, he knew the word already. And that's the reason why when the hard times arose, or when the temptations arose, he could
Fight it off?
yes, with the word. Okay, so they overcame him by the words of the testimony and by the blood of the lamb. And all. You should know those things, and then not when that's it is not that in traffic that you are getting stressed. It's not that you are looking for Bible. Sometimes you need to Google but now Krapo is easy, so you can Google relevant verses that's relevant to your situation. Write them out, speak them over your life, and it helps. It helps a lot. Yes.
Thank you. Raymond, final words.
Okay, so I would like to speak to those who are in the universities and SHS. So what happens is that, especially during exams, what happens is that people or students don't sleep. People tend to depend on caffeine. That's coffee, Vash energy drink. I used to take Vash a lot, but it had that effects on me. I developed some stomach problems from taking Vash energy drink. If you are tired, just sleep. That is
When
it.
I have
Just sleep.
exams.
Or when you have an exams, you should start preparing. Early preparation leads to success. So start preparing so you don't stress yourself at the last minute. Because I had a friend who did not sleep for I think 2 or 3 days before a paper, and on the day that we write a paper, we didn't see him.
Exactly.
He broke down.
He broke down, and we had to call his mom, and then we found that he was admitted to the hospital, which was horrible. So he had to take the exams in 400, and I don't want that to happen to anyone. It's very sad and it can be very stressful. So if you are tired, just sleep.
Okay, I think it's also about what works for you. Some of us sleep a lot, and then the day of the exam, we wake up at 2 a.m. to absorb the whole semester.
Yeah,
Right.
it's what works for you.
Yeah.
But you see, generally we need about 6 hours of rest
sleep.
in a 24-hour period. So if it means that you have to sleep at 7, I had a friend like that, medical school. She, right by 7, she's in bed. She sleeps. She wakes up at 1 a.m. She learns till morning. She had slept. Okay, but we used to have a thing we used to say in medical school, you can't cheat in nature.
Oh, you can't.
You see, so if you don't schedule your time, you don't manage, you don't sleep, you don't take breaks, your body will choose an inconvenient time to take a break.
And it may go against
It
you.
may go against
Okay,
you.
Dr. Brown, you gave us a quote. You said, do not succumb to the tyrant of what? Edge.
Do not succumb to the tyranny of agents.
Tyranny
of
of
the
agents.
agents.
Of the agents.
Yes.
That's my take home for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I have enjoyed every bit of the discussion. It has been educative. Thank you. We have another announcement. It's revival time. The Women's Fellowship of the Trinity United Church is inviting all of us on the 19th of November to a never-to-be-forgotten revival session. The speaker will be Pastor Kofi Bonsu, and the time will be between 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'd like to rehash the earlier announcements we made. The Matured Adult Fellowship of the Trinity United Church, Legon, is organizing a mentorship symposium with Reverend and Mrs. Anthony Ani. Time is 5:30 p.m. Date is 12th of November 2022. Venue, Trinity United Church, Legon, inside the Trinity Theological Seminary. Young Adult Fellowship is also inviting us to their relationship talk. Are you falling or standing in your relationship? How do you get out of a toxic relationship? How do you save and spice up your relationship? What does a healthy relationship look like? To find answers to these and more on Relationship 360, you're invited to the YAF Relationship Talk with PG Sebastian, a professional relationship coach, scheduled as follows. Date Saturday, 12th of November 2022, time 5:30 p.m. And the venue is the Youth Development Center, all in the Trinity United Church or on the seminary campus. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name has been Sedinam Togo Lamadeku. We'll see you same time next week. Good night.